So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Let's start with the tweet that began it all, which was a look at the 2021 revenue makeup for Linus Media Group. We're not planning to do a full update this year. We're not going to do a video about it. We did one just last year. But I did want to keep you guys abreast to what's going on. So basically, I said, hey, I want to make sure we're staying transparent with y'all. So YouTube AdSense is 18%. Other affiliates and ads is 5%. Facebook ads is 2%. Sponsored projects and in-video sponsor spots combined for 35%. Merch is 32%. Floatplane is 4%.
Yeah!
And Amazon Associates is 3%, with other revenue being 1%. And in response to this tweet, one astute viewer said, one Kirk Lau said, wow, I didn't imagine that AdSense would be a fifth of your income. I feel like a jerk for being lazy, not customizing my ad blocker. I responded. I said, online websites and creators are supported by ads. I thought that was pretty common knowledge, ? Ad blocking is the exact same thing as piracy. Literally the exact same thing. People will still do it, and I've been guilty of it at times, but we just need to be aware of the impact. That was what I said. I did post some follow-up tweets on the subject.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So here's where things get kind of spicy. Conflating blocking ads with piracy is silly. Why not encourage everyone to block ads but buy some merch? At least your merch segues are amusing and the desk pads are awesome. To which I replied, why not encourage everyone to torrent Stranger Things rather than subscribing to Netflix and then buy a Stranger Things themed Lego set and t-shirt?
Yeah, in that case, that would absolutely be piracy. However, you're conflating the issue here. Honestly, the second part of that statement, or the third part rather, is the most important, I think. The payment for the content is ads. You're not paying, or you're not watching, you're not paying for it. That's where I disagree, but we'll get to that.
I said, you see now, it's literally the exact same thing. The payment for the content in this case is ads. You're not watching them, you are not paying for it, because that's what the payment is. So there's another reply here. Basically, I was told, gonna have to agree to disagree. Loved watching your content on YouTube. I'll still continue to block ads and buy merch instead. Said, go sneak into Cirque du Soleil without a ticket. When they try to kick you out, try the, but I bought a soda and a hoodie defense. You're just objectively wrong. The price is set by the seller, not the buyer. You can steal/pirate it, but then just admit it to yourself. And then I followed up. To be clear, I have publicly said that a single merch purchase is worth more than a year of AdSense for a viewer.
Yeah.
From a business standpoint, I don't even care. Just don't make the argument it's not piracy. Ethical piracy is still piracy.
Okay, for this claim, I'm just going to steal Louis Rossman's take on this, which is that there's a huge difference here, specifically with the numbers involved, right? Because the revenue that you get from a single view is like a tenth of a cent. It's such a small amount of income compared to what you get from a merch purchase. Whereas for Cirque du Soleil, right, their tickets are like $200. And so it's very much a different situation when you're, pirating something that's worth a tenth of a cent and then paying $30 for merch, as opposed to pirating something that's a $200 ticket and then paying $30 for merch, right? The numbers that Louis Rossman brought up, well, this is more akin to paying Cirque du Soleil something like $2 million and then asking for a free ticket, which I think we can both agree is fairly reasonable, right? I think if you're a business owner, you'd absolutely be happy to take $2 million and then provide a free $200 ticket in return. So you really can't equate these two things because they're not the same, just fundamentally, because of the difference in numbers involved.
That was all I said on the subject. I said that not paying for a thing is piracy. So, shall I begin bringing up the atrocious takes that I would like to publicly annihilate?
I want to do a very short discussion before we do that. But
Sure.
there's a lot of those, so we do got to get to that eventually.
Sure.
But when you're saying piracy,
Sure.
would you back this up in a legal sense?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I think that's something that people are having problems with.
Yeah, rightfully they're having problems with. You can't just change the definition of words to suit whatever is convenient for you, right? Piracy is illegal at the end of the day. Like, in the vast majority of jurisdictions, I'm sure there are some, specific cases that are not covered, but you can't just change the definition of words and say, oh, well, I mean piracy, but not in the illegal sense. I just mean it in the legal sense or in the ethical sense. Well, no, you can't change what the word piracy means. It has a meaning.
Sure, but when I say piracy, I mean yar.
Yeah, I get it. I think other people aren't interpreting it necessarily the same way, and I think that might be part of the problem. But let us continue.
Sure.
Because I think that's the reason why when I read it, I'm like, yeah, okay, and I just don't care. But then I think people are like, oh, you're saying I'm like breaking the law, blah. And it's like, okay, no, you can control what your browser does. We've talked on WAN Show about how you need to be able to do that. That's like a
absolutely.
thing that should be very important, and you can do that, and that's fine. But yeah, you're not paying for it. You're not. There isn't an exchange that is intended to happening, and you are the one avoiding that. So yeah, I don't know. Go for it. Slam.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Do your screen? Yeah.
Ad blocking is not the exact same thing as piracy. To conflate the two is laughable at best and dangerous at worst.
Oh.
If ad blocking were illegal, you would have companies launching lawsuits against ad blockers and their users.
So this, we're going to.
That is some psychopathic, dystopic garbage. Maybe that's where the miscommunication took place, ladies and gentlemen, because I never said that it was illegal.
Yeah, gee, I wonder why miscommunication took place if you just invent new meanings for words.
I said it's piracy. Not everything that's piracy is necessarily, strictly speaking, illegal. Also, here's another really good take. No, not in 2015, not in 2022, and it's a link from Torrent Freak. Ad blocking does not constitute copyright infringement. Never said it was copyright infringement. I said it's piracy, which is just taking what you please and not paying for it.
Again, no, you can't just make up random definitions for words and then claim that, that's what I meant in this case. No, like if you're talking about piracy of content, that's pretty much equivalent to copyright infringement. Those two are essentially the same thing.
Sorcier says, but you literally compared it to pirating Netflix. Yes, I did. On Netflix, you have a video, right, to watch. Do we all follow along here? You with me so far?
Yep.
There's a video.
I got you.
Okay, what's the deal? How do you get the video?
You pay.
You pay for a subscription to Netflix.
Uh-huh.
Okay, what if you, for whatever reason, do not wish to pay, but you still wish to consume the video? What is that?
Piracy.
Okay. Here.
Well,
hold on. Stick with me.
You would have to actually do the thing.
Okay, stick with me here. On YouTube, what do we have?
A video.
Okay, we got a video.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the deal to watch the video?
You gotta watch an ad.
Okay, but if you want to watch the video and you don't want the ad, this is something else.
Well, again, there has to be an action, but piracy.
No. They're totally different, Luke.
Well, yes, they are totally different. With Netflix, you're specifically paying for the content. On YouTube, that's not how the model works, right? It's a very different business model, and to say that they're the same is completely dishonest.
Francesco!
Free sailors.
I'm going to have to disagree. The content itself is freely available. The way internet works, I could just print the raw stream on paper.
Nice.
Ads are more like, if you were so kind, please watch this. You could print the stream on paper, raw.
I like it.
Do you understand what they mean by this? Because I actually have no idea.
Okay, I think what they mean there is that you could print the binary ones and zeros that make up the data that is in the video, and you could print those ones and zeros on paper, but that's not really relevant.
There's actually a few different interpretations, I
And
guess.
Francesco actually goes on to completely understand the issue, which is really confusing to me. Taking your example of the Cirque du Soleil ticket, that is a transaction. To watch the show, you have to have a ticket. Well, not if you sneak in. That was my point. Freely available content, as the name suggests, is free. Ads are fundamental to sustain it, but they are not a given.
It's not a tip. You're not like tipping your server by watching an ad.
Yes, it is. I didn't sign an agreement saying that I'm going to have to watch all the advertisements before this video in order to consume the video. No, the video is freely available and I'm consuming it how I choose to consume it. With Cirque du Soleil, it's very clear that there is a requirement for you to pay the ticket to watch the video. But on YouTube, there isn't. That's completely different.
So maybe part of the problem is that most people don't have the context of what it takes to run a video hosting platform. Of the people in this room, half of them do. So why don't you talk about that a little bit? Is hosting I don't know how much it costs.
Oh,
I actually don't.
it's
so
expensive.
Is hosting? I wanted to ask the question,
Get
Luke.
owned.
I wanted to ask.
I just pirated the sorry. Yeah, no, it's really expensive. It's genuinely really expensive. That's one of the reasons why like we figured out that Twitch runs at a loss, and we've known for eversies that YouTube runs at a loss.
Ah, yes, so okay, the platform argument. Now, here's the deal. When I watch a video of yours, the transaction is between the viewer and the creator. Sure, the platform is involved in hosting the video, but that's not really who the transaction is between. They're just a third party, right? There are many services, for example, hosted on like, Amazon Web Hosting or on Google Cloud, right? But customers of businesses that run on those platforms aren't actually customers of the hosting platform itself, right? That's just a third party that the business involved in the transaction in order to, host their content. So as a viewer, it doesn't really matter to me whether YouTube is profitable, whether Twitch is profitable or not, because my transaction isn't with YouTube or Twitch. It's between me and the content creator.
Joshua Lapura posts, "It heard itself in its confusion," saying online websites and creators are supported by ads. I thought that was pretty common knowledge. Ad blocking is the exact same thing as piracy, literally the exact same thing. People will still do it, and I've been guilty of it at times, but we need to be aware of the impact. Next to the video where I talked about YouTube Vanced. No idea how to pronounce that. Where's the contradiction? He said it here. He said it in the video. I said, this is piracy because it costs X. You've decided to pay X minus infinity and consume the content anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So just understand that.
No, so again, this is where your misconception of what is involved in the transaction here occurs. First of all, let's get the obvious out of the way. X minus infinity. So, okay, you're saying that by consuming something for, let's say, suppose that it was piracy, then it would be X minus X, where I'd be paying 0, right? I'm not asking you to provide infinite money for me in this transaction, which is what X minus infinity in this case would mean. But really, the most important thing here is that, again, that's not how the transaction works. It's not that there's a specific cost to watching a video, right? As a content creator, the cost for you is in creating the video, not in distributing it. Once you've created the video, the cost of showing it to someone is free, right? You put it on YouTube or Floatplane or whatever other platform you use, doesn't really matter. And from there, it's not like you're being charged for every view. No, in fact, it's the opposite. You are supposed to make money off of every view, right? Which is, I think, the point that you're making. Watching an ad isn't the mandatory, price for this transaction. No, in fact, you could say it's the opposite, right? Since the cost of you showing the video to me is 0, essentially, well then why should you gain any benefit from that? The benefit, in fact, in this transaction, you actually benefit from it, right? By watching your video, I am paying you with my time. Same way that you get paid whenever I spend my time watching an ad, similarly, you get paid for the time that I spend watching the video.
They're like, how dare you? I have YouTube Premium. And I'm like, well, then what are you talking about? What ads would you be
I was
blocking?
saying for my setup, like I watch a lot of YouTube.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch all the ads. So I have YouTube Premium so that my watch time kicks back to creators. That Sweet. That's like a way better exchange for the creator. So that's cool. That works.
Yeah.
Okay, and if it was mandatory to do that, then great. Yeah, in that case, that would be piracy if you're avoiding paying for something that was only available through a paid channel. However, it's available through free channels as well, right? It's just available on YouTube. And so by not watching the ad, you're really not skipping on any mandatory form of monetization because the monetization there isn't mandatory. In fact, I would go so far as to say that actually, when this transaction occurs, when I watch a video as a viewer, in fact, the, I guess, money transfer in this case is from me to you, not from you to me. The viewer is the one that's paying with their time, right? You as the content creator benefit from watch time. Just look at all your, for example, channel sponsorships that you mentioned earlier in this video. If you had, let's say, 1,000 channel views per month, you definitely wouldn't have that many channel sponsors, right? And so by increasing the amount of views that you get, your viewers are actually paying you for the content that way. So again, let me summarize this just so we're clear. When a content creator makes the video, the cost for them is in actually making it. It's not for the views. It's not for showing it on whatever platform. The platform has costs for sending the data of the video to people, but the platform is a third party in this transaction. The transaction is actually between the viewer and the content creator. And so once the content creator has spent the money to make the video, after that, all the transactions are them benefiting. The content creator benefits from views, and the viewer spends that by spending their time watching the video. That's how this works. The ads, sure, are an alternative form of monetization, but they're an alternative. That's not the only way that you make money from having people watch your content. And I think the reason that so many people are upset about you calling this piracy is because no, ads are not mandatory. They never were, and hopefully they never will be.
So, Obvious Lobster on Floatplane says, exactly. It's not piracy to ignore an ad that is served to me. You're right.
Yeah, you just ignore it.
You just ignore it.
Nice. Good job.
But here's the thing.
That way the platform still gets paid and the creator still gets paid.
Sure do. So you have actually participated in the transaction.
The platform is completely irrelevant to this. Once again, the viewer is making a transaction with the content creator. The platform is just a third party that the content creator uses to host their content. They're not involved in this transaction.
But we're not talking about ignoring it. We're talking about it never actually getting served. It's a completely different thing.
How is that any different at all? Like, genuinely, I am very confused about this. Suppose I take this situation, right? I open up a YouTube video without an ad blocker, an ad starts playing, and I just walk away from my computer. I leave, go do something else, come back, the ad is done playing, and I rewind the video to the start, and then just watch it from there. Would you say that that's piracy? And if so, why? I mean, I am not watching the ad, right? The advertiser is getting absolutely no benefit whatsoever from that ad playing. YouTube, in fact, gets extra costs because they have to actually send that video stream of the ad to me. And for me, the ad has zero influence on me whatsoever. And so I am essentially avoiding what the advertiser wants, which is to, entice me to buy the product. So would you say that that's piracy in that case then? If I'm not looking at the ad, is that piracy? What if I just put on a blindfold, turn off the sound for the exact duration of the ad, and then once the video starts, I, take off the blindfold and turn the sound back on? Would that be piracy in that case? No, the answer to all these questions is no, it wouldn't, because you have no obligation to engage with the ad. It's really that simple. If you have no obligation to engage with it, well then what does it matter if you're using an automated solution to do that versus a manual? It's the exact same thing.
It just feels like there's a lot of projection. Like if you feel guilty about it,
yeah,
because you don't like the word piracy, or you don't like the idea that you are not paying for something, for some good or some service that you are taking.
I'm not taking anything. The content creator is the one that's taking my time once I've started watching the video, right? Once you've created the video, there is no additional cost to you. I don't understand where this misconception is coming from. Maybe it's because Luke is involved with hosting Floatplane, right? But once again, any other business you involve in this transaction as the content creator, that's not an issue for the viewer, right? Like, if I buy a computer, does that mean I'm making a transaction with the company that made the plastic for the keyboard, that made the metal for all the circuitry, made the whatever other materials are involved in production of the computer? No, I'm making a transaction with the company that built the computer. All those other companies that are involved aren't directly involved in this transaction, and so it doesn't make any sense to consider them at all in this.
All I said was, if you are not upholding your end of the bargain, which is that you watch the ad, or at the very least, watch the first 5 seconds of the ad before you click skip. If you're not upholding your end of the bargain, then it's piracy. And if that bothers you, then you've kind of got your own reflection to do, right? If it doesn't bother you, which lots of people it didn't, but then fine, but why are you arguing with me about it?
We're arguing because you're wrong, Linus. It's really simple. That ad that is being watched, right? It's not mandatory for me to do so. I didn't agree to this. It's not part of the transaction. The transaction is, by watching the video, I am spending my time on something that you created, and you benefit from that directly. That's the transaction here. It's not a difficult concept to understand. For example, I'm not going to buy anything that is going to appear in a YouTube ad, and so the only thing that's happening here is me just spending extra time on something that doesn't benefit the platform, doesn't benefit you, and doesn't benefit me. The actual value that you as a content creator get is in the time that I spent viewing the video, and whether or not I watch the ad, it has absolutely nothing to do with that.
It's not Linus Tech Tips that is going to suffer from this kind of thing. You're right. You're right. It is a way better business move to create other revenue streams. And we've got over 60 people here now, so we can create those revenue streams.
Okay, yeah, so smaller channels that don't have other revenue streams might be hurt from this more. In the exact same way that, let's say on Twitch, if you have a larger channel, you're probably going to have other revenue streams as well and aren't going to be 100% reliant on donations. That's the same thing here, right? On Twitch, no one bats an eye if you don't donate money to the streamer, right? Like, that's not an expectation. It's an extra thing you do if you want to support them. That's exactly what ads are here. It's the exact same situation. Don't try to make ads this mandatory thing when it isn't. Ads are completely voluntary to watch on the consumer's behalf. And so any revenue that you get from them is extra. It's not your baseline because it's not mandatory to watch ads.
Okay, so here's one. Online websites and creators are also supported by interactions and views. No, they aren't. I need to clear this up for you, Corey. They're not. Luke, how much do I get paid for a view on YouTube?
$0.
Okay. Yeah, no. You clearly just posted a graph that shows all of your revenue. YouTube ad revenue only makes up a small percentage of that. And that audience exists, the vast majority of it exists because of YouTube. And so, well, no. Whatever that number is, let's say you made 20% of your revenue from YouTube, so that remaining 80% is also a direct consequence of the views that you get. It's not a difficult concept to understand, right? You are directly supported by interactions and views. Sure, that money might not come from YouTube, but it comes from all the other revenue sources that you yourself mentioned in this video.
Could someone make an argument
Sure, go
that
for
you
it.
get paid for the sponsor spots that you bake into the video?
I do. I
Based
do
on
get
those
paid for
views.
those. However, the way that those typically work, basically the way that your rates get negotiated are based on some kind of a conversion. How many conversions, like how many dollars they're paying per conversion. So ultimately, it becomes sort of a numbers game where the more conversions you get, the higher the sponsorship rates you might get from exactly the same sponsor. So at the end of the day, if you are also not engaging with any of the sponsors, then your contribution to those sponsorship rates is effectively zero.
Okay, so is that piracy then? Let's say hypothetically, I watch your video with ads on and everything, and then I watch your sponsor spot, and then I proceed to not go and buy anything from them. Do you think that's piracy in that case? And if you don't think that that's piracy, how is that any different from me not watching ads? Well, let me tell you the simple answer to this. It's because it's not piracy and neither is blocking ads. These two things are essentially the same thing. If your revenue from sponsors comes from the number of conversions, and I choose not to engage with that, that's the same thing as me choosing not to engage with ads.
So someone in Flowplane chat, Dark Force said, with alternating case, you get paid in exposure.
In exposure, yeah, exactly. This is college. This is college football.
Okay, so yes, the you get paid in exposure. It's a bit of a meme in, I guess, among artists. However, there's a huge difference there. If someone asks you to actually make something for them in exchange for exposure, or to actually perform a service, then yes, getting paid for it in exposure is absolutely not a good thing, because you're actually spending time on providing that service or making that product or whatever. But like I mentioned earlier, as a content creator, once you've made the video, showing it to people costs you absolutely nothing. Any exposure you can get on it is good. It's really that simple, right? I'm not asking you to create a new video for me for free. The video already exists, and merely distributing it is going to be beneficial to you. The viewer is the one that's providing the service to you by watching it and increasing the amount of revenue that you get from all those other sources you mentioned at the beginning.
Oh, man.
Obvious Lobster says, redefining piracy in this way is super anti-consumer. Blocking ads is not piracy. I still don't really understand what there is to argue against here. It is. It's you basically saying, I don't like the price of this thing. I'm going to take it anyway, and I'm not going to pay for it.
No, what's happening is you are providing a thing for free and then saying, okay, here is this extra optional thing, and now you're claiming that that optional thing is mandatory and part of the price later on down the line. You don't get to do that. You don't get to change the rules of the transaction after it's been done. That's not how this works. To summarize, when a viewer watches a video, the transaction is only between them and the content creator. The platform is completely irrelevant in this transaction because they're a third party and that they're involved with the content creator. In the transaction of a viewer watching a video that the content creator made, the viewer is the one that's providing a service. They are providing the watch time on the video. And why is that the case? Well, it's because to the content creator, there is no cost to showing the video to someone. The cost is in making the video. And yes, providing the service of watching the video does, in fact, have a monetary impact on you, as you mentioned in this very video. The 80% of your revenue that comes from other sources is entirely derived from the popularity that your videos have. And so by reversing this transaction and saying, oh no, well, the ads are the mandatory thing that are part of the transaction is simply not true. They aren't. You don't get to change the rules about this transaction after you've made it. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this video here. Linus does make some other points in his video. However, I don't think they're particularly relevant to the discussion, or I've already responded to them. So just to keep it brief, this is where I'll end it. Thanks for watching.